installHUB.com. Streamlining your installations.
Another week, another podcast. You're joined with me, Chelsea, here on the installHUB podcast. It's Friday the 14th, and I'm actually joined with Thomas Armstrong this week, who is Operations Manager at HEVO. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Chelsea. How are you doing today?
Really good. So there's a little bit of a distance between yourself and I because you're in New York and I'm here in the UK.
That's right. Although we tend to do a fair amount of work in the UK, so our team is over there even in November, and I'm sure we'll be back soon.
Well, next time you are, we will absolutely have to go out and I can show you how the Brits drink.
It's dangerous for us.
So dangerous. Now, let's obviously talk about HEVO, but firstly, I love the company name, and it stands for honesty, empathy, vision, and optimism, which obviously spells HEVO. Who thought of the company name, Thomas?
Absolutely. HEVO actually has a few meetings that are so important to our founder and to our shareholders and our team members and everybody that's involved in the company. You mentioned those four. It also stands for Hybrid Electric Vehicle Optimization, which is more directly related to the technology. And HEVO is actually an ancient word which means rise, as in to rise, as to advance, as to kind of seek forward. And so all of those meetings are so important to us. It's sort of the ethos of our company. And you can see stickers and signs and all sorts of things related to those meetings all over our office.
Now, for the listeners, HEVO gives a unique electric vehicle charging experience, but can you explain what that experience is in a little more detail?
We've estimated that about 40% of the market is shut out right now because of the difficulties associated with plug-in charging. So if we can provide a better experience, a hands-free experience, where you have these charging pads that are in the ground and you have these receiving pads that are on the bottom of your car, you can constantly be charging. You can put them in your house, you can put them at your workplace, you can put them into the roads so you charge as you drive. And what that means is you're just topping off your battery as you go about your day. You never have to worry about, do you have the right connector? Can I plug in? Is it raining outside? Do I have my elderly mother with me? You can just live your life. And we think that that's going to really accelerate EV adoption around the world, particularly in communities where it's gotten off to a little bit of a slower start.
100%. I mean, I once read an article which I remember vividly, and it said, until EV charging is as effortless as Wi-Fi, it won't be adopted by the masses. And I remember thinking, I'm not sure, that's a bit steep. But really, I do think that's true. You know, a lot of people want to take on EVs, but the infrastructure isn't quite there. And this makes complete sense. It's effortless. You know, nobody even likes to fill up a combustion engine. That's a nightmare. You know, so if you can take all of that away, and I mean, to be charging whilst just driving, that would be the ideal, wouldn't it?
That would be the dream. And that's what we're trying to get to. And at HEVO, we're really prioritizing our fleet customers, more of a business to business model, delivering wireless chargers to logistics fleets, so delivery vans, FedEx, UPS, DHL sorts of customers. Also transit fleets. Think about black tabs in London where you are, or New York City taxi cabs where I am. Any of these transit fleets have these challenges related to EV infrastructure. And then finally, fleets for disabled drivers, sometimes called paratransit, and getting these seamless hands-free chargers into the vehicles and into the homes of disabled drivers or the shuttles that those communities often use. So that's what we're targeting now. It will likely be several years before wireless charging is in all the passenger vehicles that you and I might have, and that wireless charging is built into the roads. There's certainly a chicken and the egg problem there that we're working on solving with our partners. So that's years out, but we'll start with fleets. We've had some great traction so far, including the largest wireless charging order in history here in New York City, and some other projects that I can talk to you about. And we have some exciting pilots that hopefully I can talk publicly about in a few weeks and months in parts of the developing world where they'll just jump right there as opposed to having all these cords and connectors all over the place.
Very, very exciting stuff. Now, you touched upon some of your brilliant partnerships. And I know that you've already announced this year that you've been working with Stellantis, Vea as well. So tell us about those partnerships and any others that you can let me know about, because I'm nosy.
Yeah, I'll tell you about a couple. I won't be able to share all the details, but I'll tell you about
I'm sure I know. I'm pushing my luck, but it was worth it.
Yes. So for Stellantis, let me talk about that, because that's such a key piece of what we do, is to integrate that vehicle equipment, sometimes called the vehicle assembly, into the vehicle itself. And so we have this vehicle pad that goes on the chassis of the car, the bottom of the car. car between the front two tires. And then there's this other component. You can think about it as almost like the onboard charger for the wireless equipment that we have that needs to connect into the battery and into the communication systems of the vehicle. We want to make sure that we're listening to the car, that we're not somehow overriding it, or the modification of adding HEVO equipment isn't somehow impacting your car safety or performance or anything like that. They really need to be in sync. And so we work with companies like Stellantis to figure out how do we do that integration. And what a lot of people don't realize is that there are actually industry standards, automotive standards around wireless charging. In the same way that there are standards around Qi charging for your cell phone, or standards for everything else, that every other consumer product that you use. And what we're trying to do with Stellantis is take our equipment and integrate that with their Chrysler vehicles based on that automotive standard. And if we can prove that, then we can replicate it across their platform. So that means Jeep, that means Maserati, that means Fiat, that means any of their 16 brands. It gives us the flexibility to say, HEVO works to this standard. We have this interoperability. Stellantis also has developed to this standard. Now we're ready to take this more to scale. There's some other really, really cool technology advancements and research projects with us and the US government and others that I'll tell you about another time. Once more of that is public, but they're such a great partner, and we're so thankful for the work with them.
So how long will the trial be with Stellantis before you'll be able to kind of look back at figures and see how things have worked or where it's kind of not worked? How long are you giving yourselves to kind of run that trial?
So we have been working with them for several years at this point. It's become public more recently. The work that I've been describing will extend through 2023 with the idea that we would start to prepare more for upfit programs, again, targeting those fleet customers originally. And then over time, as you get into 2025, 2026, moving into the passenger market.
Oh, very exciting. And that will be here before we know it. I mean, you blink and a year passes, doesn't it?
It does. And I'm relatively new to the automotive industry. I come from more of the grid and the infrastructure side of the industry. And what I've learned is that on the automotive side, it typically takes maybe 4 years to create a new vehicle. So when Stellantis says, I want to make an entirely new Jeep, or I want to make an entirely new platform for Maserati, they might start that in 2023 so that it's released in 2027. And you can't easily just jump in the middle of that 4-year cycle and add on your equipment or change your technology, your communications, anything about the experience of that vehicle. So we're really conscious of that. We work with a number of other automakers that I can't talk about publicly, but we're conscious of where each of those companies are at in their 3 to 4 year cycle to make sure that we can make wireless part of that next version that comes to market.
Absolutely. It's honestly so exciting. So you've got a lot in the pipeline. Hopefully you'll come back onto the pod when you can discuss in more detail about the other ones. Yeah, I hope so. Now, HEVO is very strong, always posting on social media. In fact, that's how yourself and I kind of hooked up, isn't it, through socials? It seems to be definitely the way forward. So how do you find the social media helps to raise awareness for HEVO?
Yeah, we really focus on education. So few people know that wireless is even an option for them. Volvo did this study in 2019, and they asked their customers, and even, I should say, hopeful customers, what would convince you to buy an electric vehicle? And in 2019, 29% said if you could wirelessly charge it. And they didn't even know that was an option. They were just thinking, well, if my headphones are wireless and my toothbrush and everything else in my life is wireless, if my car could be too, I would buy it. And nobody knows that it's an option. We go to so many events and post on social media and do podcasts and all the different ways that we get out there in the world, and people are shocked that we have a real product and that we're not just kind of kids in a garage, that this is a real project with customers on 4 continents, with major partners like Stellantis. This is here, and you're going to be able to buy it this year if you'd like to. You can buy it in hopefully your passenger vehicles over the next several years.
How do they go about doing that? It's just, I love it. I think it's so fun what you're doing.
Good question. So we are partnering with installers like VIA. So I can talk a little bit about VIA to actually get that into the hands of customers. HEVO is not in the business of a direct-to-consumer in the way that Target or Walmart or somebody might be, right? You can't go to a HEVO store in London and buy the charger, but we work with partners like VIA. So what VIA does is they take our equipment, we'll sell it wholesale to them. Then they work with residential buildings, with municipalities, with fleets, with any of their customers who want to actually use the charging equipment. And then they'll be responsible for installing it and maintaining it for you. And VIA is the preferred installer for Stellantis dealerships, but they have a number of partnerships. VIA works from Canada all the way down to Brazil. We have a great relationship with Car Charged UK, based out of the Mansfield region, and they do our installs in the United Kingdom. And we have similar partnerships all over the world. But you'd actually work with one of those installers, and you'd get it at your workplace or at your retail locations, at wherever you would charge your EV, you get it through that installer.
Brilliant. I mean, it makes sense for it to happen that way. Well, if anyone is listening and they do wish to kind of look you guys up, they can do so. It's HEVO, so that's HEVO on all social media, isn't it? And the website is
www.hevo.com. HEVO.com.
HEVO.com. I love that. Well, I cannot wait to see, you guys go from strength to strength. Undoubtedly you will. I can't wait for the day that I'm in the car and I have a passenger and I'm driving and charging wirelessly at the same time, and I'm telling the passenger about this conversation, because undoubtedly at some point that will happen.
Yes, we hope so. We're working hard to make that happen. And I think one of the really impactful things that we can get to in the long run is if you're able to constantly charge, you don't need as big of a battery. And if you don't need as big of a battery, you don't need as expensive a car. And we want to get the price of a car down to something that's a little bit more attainable for the world. Because right now, Mercedes and Tesla, and pick your vendor, they make fantastic EVs. They're great to drive. If you haven't driven an EV, highly recommend it. I had the opportunity to drive the Ford Mustang Mach-E the other day, and I went 0 to 90 in what felt like half a second.
I bet.
I didn't realize it. It's a lot of fun. It's a great car, but most people can't afford that. And so if we can get the battery cost down, which is the biggest cost of the vehicle, we can get the price of an EV down. And that means more people can get EVs.
Absolutely. And that's what we all want. And, we're all working together in this industry. It is thriving at the moment. There's so many people. There's so many innovative ideas and new ideas. And that's why I'm doing this pod, because I get to talk to people like yourself, Thomas, and hear about fantastic business ideas. So Thomas Armstrong, Operations Manager at HEVO, thank you so much for talking to me on the podcast today.
Thank you, Chelsea.